Okay, so we're going to start in this inverted rock back position. I've got my toes dragging up the wall to get my hamstrings on. I've got my elbows right underneath my shoulders, and I'm thinking of pushing gently into the floor to push my entire rib cage up towards the ceiling. I'm also thinking about gently spreading my sit bones apart here, lifting my tailbone, almost making a tiny twerk so that I can keep that posterior pelvic floor really open. So I'm thinking of inhaling all the way down into my pelvic floor like I'm inhaling into my back pockets. And then as I exhale, the exhale starts at the pelvic floor, thinking of a gentle pelvic floor contraction through the deep core, everything lifting towards the ceiling, and my rib cage coming back towards my spine. So each inhale expands into the back of my body, exhale from the bottom up. This one is a bear position using a reach under and then a reach forward to get the core engaged. So first of all, I'm dragging my toes up the wall. I'm pushing my rib cage away from the floor. And again, I'm thinking about that tiny twerk, opening the back of my pelvic floor. And I'm not arching through my back here or flexing. I'm just trying to maintain that neutral spine, pushing the floor away with the opposite hand. So now as I push my left hand into the floor, I'm reaching through with my right arm, taking a big inhale, and then as I exhale, I'm reaching forward, feeling how I can get that exhale from the very bottom of my pelvic floor right through the deep core muscles into my rib cage. So as I reach, I'm trying to keep that rib cage back towards my spine. So still dragging the toes up the wall, feeling that I can get that rib cage back. Inhale to reach under, exhale to reach through. So the same thing on the other side. I'm going to push that hand into the floor, almost imagining that I'm squeezing a newspaper underneath my armpit to really get that serratus muscle kicking in. Reaching forward, exhaling, reaching under to inhale and still pushing that right hand into the floor, really making sure I'm stabilizing around that shoulder. So I also want to think about here keeping my hips really steady. I'm not wobbling around. I'm using those hamstrings to keep me in position and really focusing on getting that nice deep inhale as I reach through, and then exhaling, reaching forward without losing the position of my rib cage. Okay, so this is a modified down dog with a reach. So as I reach back, I'm inhaling and reaching my hand to my opposite ankle. So here I'm trying to get that rotation with my rib cage as I reach back and inhaling into that space. I'm keeping my knees pretty bent and I'm pushing the floor away as I move back, and even as I come forward and do that exhale, I'm still pushing the floor away. Getting that exhale from the bottom up, not letting my back arch as I come down into that bear position. So you can also drop your knees back down to the floor here if that feels better. And if you want to modify this even more, you can just not do the reach with the hand and just focus on inhaling as you push yourself back, exhale, come back down to the floor. This one is a 90-90 single leg glute bridge, focusing on tucking and untucking the pelvis as we come up and down. So the first thing I've done here is take a big exhale and get those ribs to come down. And then I'm gently untucking my pelvis, thinking of dropping my sit bones down towards the floor as I come to the bottom and dragging that foot down the wall as I come down from the bridge. So I'm dragging down, getting tension on the hamstring into a slight anterior tilt. And then as I start to come up, I'm coming all the way up onto my toe, but I'm thinking of the hamstring really pulling me under and pulling the hips up towards the ceiling without this going into my low back. So I'm really trying to avoid going too far that I start to feel this in my low back, and keeping that tension on the hamstring, big toe joint really pushing into the surface. So I've got that connection, especially to the inside hamstring, I'm thinking about curling that tailbone up towards the ceiling on the exhale, and then as I come back down and get that anterior pelvic tilt, dragging my heel down the wall, I'm inhaling, getting that length and expansion all the way down into my pelvic floor. So then swapping legs, exactly the same thing. First of all, I'm getting that little bit of anterior tilt. I'm thinking about getting that tension on the hamstring by dragging that heel down the wall. And then as I start to come up, as I exhale, I'm coming all the way up onto my toe, really focusing on the hamstring here and not scrunching my glutes. I'm really thinking about using that hamstring to pull my pelvis up off the floor. So just once more, exhale, roll up all the way to the toes, inhale down into the pelvic floor as I come back down. This one is a 90-90 side plank with a band. I'm setting myself up with my elbow right underneath my shoulder and I'm bringing my knees up to 90 degrees. So you can stack your feet one over the other and really make sure you have those knees right in front of you at that 90-degree angle. So I'm pushing my elbow down into the floor, thinking of squeezing a newspaper under my armpit to get that serratus to come on. And then as I push myself up off the floor, I'm thinking of my glute on the bottom leg really pushing me up, getting those hips to go straight up to the ceiling. And as I come up to that top position, I'm using the top glute to push the band open. So rather than just thinking of my knees coming apart, I'm thinking of using the glutes to push that band apart. I've got my hand on my lower rib cage, just trying to make sure that the ribs are not flaring forward as I come up. And I'm taking a big inhale at the bottom and then exhaling to come up, thinking of that exhale from the bottom up, getting the pelvic floor to gently come on and then through those deep core muscles. This is a wall roller squat. So my feet are set up underneath my hips and I've just taken a step away from the wall so I can come down in that nice stacked position without sending my hips back towards the wall. So I'm keeping grounded with my feet, thinking of the big toe joint and the heel nice and heavy on the floor. As I come down into the squat here, I'm trying to maintain that stacked position. And that means my rib cage is staying back towards my spine. I'm not flaring forward. And so I'm taking a nice big inhale at the mid-range here and then exhaling to halfway. Inhale down into the pelvic floor, exhale up. This is a half kneeling dumbbell chop. So as I bring that weight up in front of me, I'm thinking about keeping that connection between the rib cage and the pelvis. So deep core stays on. I'm taking a big inhale as I bring that weight up and exhaling down as I chop that weight down. If you feel like your hips are really uneven in this position, you can put a yoga block underneath your back knee. And as you bring that weight up, you're going to inhale, think of rotating open at the hips and at the rib cage. So here on the other leg, exactly the same setup. Inhale, open, keep that connection between the rib cage and the pelvis nice and strong. Inhale, open, exhale, chop. Inhale up and exhale, chop.